unafraid. I'm trying to walk the walk, truth on the mic, no shame here, just real talk. Came from the outside, never fit in. Now we tell the story and the healing begins. No front, no mask, just telling the truth. Keep it real, keep it raw, speaking straight from the booth. If you feeling like an outsider, this one's for you.
Welcome to another episode of Unashamed Unafraid. We are unashamed of sexual addiction recovery and unafraid of coming unto Christ for healing. How's it going, guys?
Fan-freaking-tastic.
Joshua, how are you, man?
Not as good as Chris.
I love having you on these episodes because you're in it with me. You're like my brother. Sometimes when I'm with Chris and James, I'm like, these guys have all the answers now, and they've been in it, and they've been sober, and they're doing the things. And you're kind of like my brother who's in it with me.
They're shouting from the top of the mountain. They're like, just stop looking. And we're like,
I don't know that I've ever experienced them as saying things like that.
They're not those guys. They get down in the trenches and help.
Yeah.
That's what this whole podcast is.
So, Chris, I loved your thought for the episode. What did you want to talk about?
How do we forgive ourselves? Meeting with a lot of clients, that's one of their hardest things. That for me was a super hard thing for me too, because other people were forgiving me, but yet I couldn't forgive myself because of what I'd done and the lives that I destroyed. Like, it was just so hard to allow myself to be forgiven.
I think my issue is I just don't know if I've ever done anything.
You've never done nothing to forgive yourself about.
I couldn't even get it. I couldn't even get it out because I'm so guilty. Yeah, I have a lot of things that I've needed forgiveness for. There's these funny barriers in my mind that once I cross that threshold, then it's out of control and I hate myself and I could never forgive myself. I actually don't know if I could name in this moment what has changed for me. But when I think about what those moments have been historically, I don't feel pain in the same way that I used to. So there's been some self-compassion and forgiveness. I'm just not quite sure what the recipe is. What do you guys think?
The thing that's coming to my mind right now is coming to know how God sees you, which can be done in lots of different ways. I know not everyone is a big 12-step guy, but the 4-step inventory for the 12 steps was massive for me to go back and realize that I didn't stand a chance. As a 8-year-old kid, seeing pornography on the internet for the first time, and friggin' nobody even knew what the internet was, and parents had no idea, bishops had no idea, therapists had no idea how to help. You're just able to give yourself some grace when you go back and see exactly how it all happened. Have you guys seen the movie Thunderbolts?
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't watched it yet.
No? There's a line in the movie where Yelena, the main character, is weeping, just yelling, talking to her father about all the horrible things she's done in her life, how terrible she feels all the time. And he interrupts her and says, "When I look at you, I don't see your mistakes. That's why we need each other." And having a brotherhood of men who can help me see myself without my flaws is something that helps me. I've found that a lot of recovery is manifested what I'm supposed to be doing with God through brotherhood. And after a while of doing it with brothers for a while, the Spirit's like, you should probably just do this with God. Call up your brother once in a while when you're going through something hard. And God's just like, maybe you should pray once in a while. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. But brotherhood's been huge. Being able to have others express to me how they see me and writing it all out with my 4-step
And they know what
inventory.
you struggle with, and they're still loving on you.
Oh, yeah.
I think the hardest things for me to forgive myself for have been the things that I feel the most out of control and shameful about. Things you're not supposed to do, things that feel risky. Relapsing at work, using a roommate's device to act out. I mean, stuff like that I've done in the past. Boy, that wrecks me. I think about it, and it's not as fresh anymore, and I have a lot of self-compassion. The key, actually, that feels like it's it for me, is understanding how you got there. No wonder you got addicted to porn. No wonder you were so desperate to find something to relieve the pain. No wonder you were going to crazy lengths to act out. like your emotional state at the time, your inability to create safety for yourself, not having people in your life you could go to and talk to about your inner world. That's made it feel over time that, yeah, you know what, I am forgivable. My 4-step was a kind of a pivotal moment for me as well, Joshua, but I'm trying to think if there is anything that I haven't like really, really forgiven myself for in this moment.
I feel like in this context, sitting with a bunch of brothers, it's easy to be more forgiving of yourself. It's after a setback or something where you forget.
Yeah, to your point, actually, what just came to my mind was one thing I haven't forgiven myself for yet is the fact that it has taken me so long to recover. I see the look in my girlfriend's eyes when I relapse, like every once a month or whatever it is, you know, with porn. That's, man, once a month would have been a dream for me as a teenager. I've been like, bro, we're using porn once a month. You're good. That's not even a big issue. It's not twice a day, 3 times a day. I mean, I was setting records. It was bad.
Did you see what just happened, though? Just looking back at yourself a few years ago.
Yeah.
And having more grace for yourself, going back in time.
Gomez.
Just raise
Why did you raise your...
I'd like to share something.
You can speak now, James.
We will allow
it. Permission.
Looking back, for me, one of the things that I needed to do to forgive myself, I needed to forgive God. For a while there, I was pretty mad that for quite a few things, that he let me struggle with it for so long, or suffer with it for so long alone in isolation without answers and without brotherhood, that he didn't answer prayers, that he didn't put resources into my hands for the first 14 years of my marriage, that I had shamed my children and that I had perpetuated the shame and given them a legacy of shame before I found recovery and learned about shame. I was pissed about that. Like, how could you let me damage my children and perpetuate the cycle of shame to them? How could you have not shown it to me sooner? So, along with finding my identity, finding brotherhood, recapturing how God really sees me as his son and that he loves me, and understanding who God is and his character and nature. But even before all of that, really, I had to forgive God for allowing me to suffer through it. Because I was angry for a long time because of the consequences of not having answers, seeking them, wanting them, praying for them desperately, but feeling like none came. Unashamed Unafraid didn't exist. Therapists were on the brink of starting things, and there were no therapists for most of the years I was acting out. So Brene Brown wasn't doing her thing yet, you know, so God's like, well, they were limited resources out there and the chances of you running into them were pretty slim.
How do you make sense of that?
In hindsight?
Yes, like recovered James.
How do I make sense of the fact that I suffered for 14 years without answers?
Yeah.
I make sense of it in that God makes beauty from ashes, and that God is a long-term, big picture God. And he didn't want me to suffer. It's not like it was his will that I sat there and suffered. And he knew that even though that I was and I was struggling, it would be fine. And that he would take care of me, and that in God's economy, he would bless me 1,000-fold more than I suffered. So that's how I make sense of it. All these things will give you experience and be for your good. I think that experience makes me a better therapist today. It makes me a more compassionate person for men who struggle for years and years. It made me have to be more compassionate for myself. That recovery then, after getting resources, still took a long time, because now I'd had decades under my belt of that pattern versus a few years. He still gave me light and knowledge and wisdom on the other side of it.
Joshua, do you remember when we were talking on the phone like 3 months ago and you told me you just heard this random thing that Chris said in passing on the podcast that totally blew your mind? Do you want to talk about that? Because I feel like that's super relevant.
Are you talking about when James and Chris were talking about
how long it takes to recover?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, really casually, James was like, so you recovered pretty quickly, right, Chris? And you were like, yeah. You're like, what was it? 4 years, 3 years or something like that? I can't remember. What was it? Do you remember what it was? You have multiple dates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from when you started recovery to when you stopped viewing pornography, how long was that?
Almost 3 years. About
Okay.
3 years.
Okay.
So I think that's the number that I remember being talked about. And I remember you guys just casually said it. You're like, yeah, really quick. And then Chris was like, yeah, like 3 years. And I was thinking, that seems long to me.
My last acting out was December of 2009 with masturbation. So that's my sobriety date. So that's like almost 3 years total.
Well, it was
But then
really
pornography was like a year before that.
So 2 years and 2 years with pornography, 2 years and 4 months with women.
And then 3 years from masturbation.
Yeah.
So that was really healing for me to hear. I was coming up on like a year in recovery, and I was like, man, why haven't I beat this yet? It's been a whole year, you know? And then I heard you guys really casually say that, and I thought about it and was like, if 3 years is fast, then I'm okay. I can give myself some grace. I can keep on trying. It's okay.
I remember a specific moment when I was 14, and I knelt down with the most faith that I've ever had, and I talked to God. I was like, my life was falling apart. I was at the height of my suicidality and depression. I remember I asked him, how is this going to be okay? And this is one of the reasons why I know for a fact that God lives. What I experienced in that moment was not human emotion. I had the words divinely carved, etched into my heart. The burning in the bosom. I mean, everything you hear in scriptures about these really intense spiritual experiences was completely accurate of what I felt in that moment. But God said this as clearly as I have ever had revelation from heaven in my whole life. He said, Sam, everything is going to be okay. And I didn't know what that meant in that moment, but I didn't stop crying for like 2 hours. Easily the most spiritual experience that I have ever had in my entire life. If I could have held on to that truth for longer than 24 hours and let it change my identity, this whole idea of forgiveness and recovery would be so much easier. I can't even imagine what my life would have been like if I could have looked at myself and been a little kinder. And that's the battle of recovery.
So I remember attending the temple for the first time after entering into recovery and feeling guilty. You know, everyone jokes about being struck by lightning at church.
Mm-hmm.
Similar experience. Being in this place throughout my entire life, I had felt shame and guilt being there, knowing I was unable to overcome this problem. And so this sacred place had become a trigger. I was entering this place again for the first time after being in recovery, and I was sitting in the chapel and I opened up the scriptures. I started reading, and the verse said, I'm not going to quote off the top of my head, I'm just going to tell you what it says in general. When you haven't repented, when you aren't living the gospel, that the Lord takes away what he has blessed you with, the knowledge you've received is withheld from you. And I was thinking about it, and I realized I've never lost my testimony. I've been trying my whole life to overcome this problem. And the Spirit said, that's enough. You're worthy now. You were worthy then. The Lord doesn't expect us to be perfect, or no one could go and do any of these things. He just wants us to be trying. And if we're trying, that's enough. Enough for him. That's all that matters.
So for me, my sobriety dates are in 2008, but I still hadn't forgiven myself. And when I went to my first Warrior Heart boot camp, that was a time that I finally saw myself as God saw us. And I remember praying, and I don't remember from before that, I don't remember the last time I ever prayed out loud. I just knelt down in my little place in the middle of the trees and don't know if anybody heard me or not and don't really care, but man, I just poured my heart out to God, and he just said, I love you. You're mine. Man, I've never written so much in my life. Just all the vows of silence after the vows of silence, and vows of silence are something that we do after each of the sessions at boot camp and to allow you to spend time with God. And when I was able to do that, I even remember writing that, hey, I forgive you. Like, I'm forgiving myself, just writing it down. And I just sobbed, just bawled my eyes out because I didn't know I should ever do that. And then I finally did. It was almost like God gave me permission to forgive myself. I gave myself permission to forgive myself. I don't know, but it was just a beautiful experience for me to be able to finally do that. Because I know Autumn had forgiven me, and so many people that I've hurt had forgiven me, and they still loved me. But man, I was still pissed off at myself for what I had done. And God was like, no, I just want you to see you how I see you. And man, that just changed me. I think that's a huge part of that helped me live my life of recovery. Finally forgiving myself. Because I don't know if I would have had the power to overcome temptation. I do forgive myself, and I love myself.
It's hard when you hear the Lord tell you how he feels about you to deny it.
Can't disagree with Jesus.
And when
Well, you could, but it doesn't work very well.
So I would challenge anybody out there right now where you just have a really hard time with forgiving yourself. Write yourself a letter of forgiveness. Just write it. Just see what that feels like. Read it again and allow yourself to feel it. Maybe you don't believe it right now, but maybe you will.
I'm going to piggyback on that. Write that letter and take it to God and see what he has to say about it. Because I think in every single one of these stories, what I'm seeing is the common thread is that when you see and you know and you feel and you experience what it's like to be close to Jesus, something inside of you changes, and then it's suddenly just okay. It's okay that you messed up.
Yeah.
It's okay that you made mistakes. It's okay that you have a long ways to go. It's just okay.
you know, someone out there might be listening and hearing this challenge right now, and this will be your moment.
Whatever God's putting on your heart right now, we want to hear about it. Email us, Sam, Chris, James, at unashamedunafraid.com. Thank you for listening. You can find us on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. Get access to our bonus content and become an outsider on unashamedunafraid.com. Until next time, continue to live unashamed.